Yeah, and the throat is still really sore. Okay, let's get started. I'd hoped to, well, what I planned on doing today was getting us through about page 200 of, sorry, not page 200, a third of the way of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. I've got my British edition. I've got it because it's the one that's all marked up. I've got most of the page numbers marked according to the American edition, but I know I sent you 2 lectures, or 3, can't remember which, that went over Order of the Phoenix. But I want to spend more time than I should. Talked about 2 passages in Order of the Phoenix. I don't expect anybody to have the book, so don't worry about it. One is the Sorting Hat song, because it introduces a bunch of ideas that just reverberate, okay, throughout the rest, okay? One of which is really, really important for book 7, and then another scene at the very end of the book between Harry and Luna, okay? And we'll probably talk about some other passages as we go, and once we get into a little bit of Half-Blood Prince. I want to get us in Half-Blood Prince up to, not including, but up to chapter 8, which is Snape Victorious. So the Sorting Hat song begins on page 204 and goes through 207. This is the longest of the 3 Sorting Hat songs. The first one in book 1 is the shortest. Then you have in book 3, the next one, which kind of introduces the idea that everything wasn't hunky-dory, let's say, for the 4 founders within a few years of starting Hogwarts. This one is the bleakest of them. And, I mean, introducing Dolores Jane Umbridge, so of course it is. So, page 204. In times of old when I was new and Hogwarts barely started, make sure that was started, the founders of our noble school thought never to be parted. And so we get introduced to this idea of parting. And what I always ask, the students is, give me synonyms for parted. And people usually say separated, divided, other things like that, okay? So they thought never to be parted, separated, divided, etc. United, notice the juxtaposition, parted, united. United by a common goal, they had the self-same yearning to make the world's best magic school and pass along their learning. So when they started thinking of the idea of coming up with Hogwarts, they all had the same goal. They were of, in one sense, therefore, of one mind. Didn't think about this with my first class. The end of book 4, what does Dumbledore say to all the assembled students in Hogwarts? It's the end of your feast. He tells them how Cedric died, right? Voldemort killed him. He tells them Harry brought Cedric's body back, that Harry fought Voldemort, etc. And then he tells them what? Anybody remember? As long as we have a common goal and purpose, we stay united, Voldemort can't harm us. He talks about Voldemort's greatest skill. It's introducing discord. Okay? So, together, we're told, they sing or say, we will build and teach, the 4 good friends decided. And never did they dream that they might someday be divided. For were there such friends anywhere as Slytherin and Gryffindor? Now, how many of you, if you can remember the first time you read this book, some of you, it might have been last week. For some of you, you might not even be there yet, okay? Don't tell me, it doesn't matter. Except there is a quiz due tomorrow night over the first half, and there will be another one due Sunday, probably Monday night over the second half. I'll put up today. How many of you were surprised to see that Gryffindor and Slytherin were best friends? Doesn't that kind of seem odd, knowing what we know about Gryffindors and Slytherins from books 1 through 4 at least. Unless it was the second pair of Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw. So how could it have gone so wrong? How could such friendships fail? Why, I was there and so can tell the whole sad, sorry tale. Okay? So now we get a section where each of the 4 founders says what they're about, so to speak. Said Slytherin will teach just those whose ancestry is purest. So Slytherin's going to teach whom?
Purebloods.
Purebloods. Notice how Slytherin puts it. We'll teach just those. What's just mean? Only.
No exceptions.
No exceptions. Okay? Who's the we? Is that Hogwarts? Is Slytherin saying, we, Hogwarts, will only teach purebloods, and therefore Slytherin is asserting authority for all of Hogwarts? Or is the we kind of the royal we, where Slytherin's identifying himself as we? Okay? A difference between those two, by the way, is the royal we, like when the king today, I usually say the queen, but she's dead, when the king says, we wish or we desire, that's the king speaking in his royal capacity as king, but also as what? Head of state. That is, speaking for all of England. Okay? So, is he speaking for all of Hogwarts? Or is he just saying we, meaning me? Okay? It's unclear. It says Ravenclaw. We'll teach those whose intelligence is surest. Right? So Ravenclaw is going to teach whom? The smartest. But notice there's no adjective. There's no modifier. Doesn't say we'll teach only those. So Ravenclaw doesn't limit, but Ravenclaw does use the we. So is this we, Hogwarts again, or is this we, the students I will teach? And using that kind of royal sense, almost inflated ego-y sense, okay? I'm not saying, that when royalty uses that means inflated ego. Gryffindor. We'll teach all those with brave deeds to their name. Okay? So Gryffindor says, we'll teach brave students. Which ones?
Only the ones with.
All of them. All the brave students. Okay? But again, we. Hogwarts as a whole, or just Gryffindor? It's unclear. Said Hufflepuff. Notice the break. I'll teach. Anybody know what it says? Who doesn't have the book in front of them?
The lot.
The lot. What's the lot mean?
Everyone?
All of them. I'll teach. I. Not we. I. I'll teach everyone. Well, who's the everyone include? Purebloods, the smartest ones, the bravest ones. And not the purebloods, not the smartest ones, not the bravest ones. I'll teach the lot. And then she says something else that none of the others include. And treat them just the same. I'm going to treat the smart ones the same as I would treat the dumb ones. I'm going to treat the cunning ones, the ambitious ones, just as I would the slackers. I will treat the brave ones the same as I will treat the cowards. Okay? Notice that distinction that's brought in between Hufflepuff and all of the others. All the others want to do what?
Pick and choose who they want to teach.
Keep going. Use the American higher educational system as an example. Think of Ravenclaw, Gryffindor, and Slytherin as a university. What kind of universities are they?
Ravenclaw is probably more like an Ivy League.
They're Ivy Leagues, right? Each one of them. Highly selective in terms of who gets admitted, blah, blah, blah. Hufflepuff?
State school.
Community college. I was going to say state level, university kind of a thing.
TSU.
Doesn't matter, any state university. UTK is not on a league with Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Brown, etc. They think they are, but they're not, okay? They're state university, okay? So, I'll teach the law and treat them just the same. I'm going to treat them all as equals. These differences caused little strife when first they came to light. Notice the sorting hat is telling us these are differences. They're differences in attitude, they're differences in approach. Okay? For each of the four founders had a house in which they might take only those they wanted. So they began with the idea of, we'll have four houses: Slytherin, Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff. And each of them we are told, would teach only the ones they wanted. So Slytherins are going to teach Slytherin-y people. Ravenclaws are going to teach Ravenclaw-y people, that is, smart people. Slytherin's cunning, ambitious people. Gryffindor's brave, daring people. So, for instance, Slytherin took only pure-blood wizards of great cunning, just like him. Two qualifications there: pure bloods and great cunning. Okay? And only those of sharpest mind were taught by Ravenclaw. Notice only one quality for Ravenclaws. While the bravest and the boldest, two qualities taught by Gryffindors, went to daring Gryffindor. Slytherin is not modified. It's not, cunning Slytherin. It's just Slytherin. Ravenclaw is not modified, but we're told Gryffindor is daring. Good Hufflepuff, there is another modifier. Hufflepuff is good. She took the rest and taught them all she knew. Thus the houses and their founders retained friendships firm and true. So what have we just seen happen? That everybody in this classroom has personally experienced. Every one of you, I can say this with absolute certainty, experienced what was just described. How so?
They're put into boxes.
Keep going.
Well, how the standard public school education is, students are often very sort, like you'll have the honors classes.
Okay.
Like regular classes.
That's kind of it.
Stereotypes in a way?
No? Yeah, maybe. Go back to the public school idea, grade school, elementary school.
Team captain.
Bingo. PE. What happened? Every one of you. What happens for a PE class? Everybody line up like firing squad, And teacher picks two captains. Pick your teams. Who gets picked first? Loser, fat kid, short kid, dumb. No. Who gets picked first?
The sporty.
The most athletic, the jocks, right? Who gets picked last? The Hufflepuffs. Who's last?
The Hufflepuffs.
I mean, who's in those PE things? The fat kids, the dorky kids, the ones who can't control how their bodies move, the Rons, the Harrys, the Nevilles, right? They're the ones who get picked last, okay? Look at what was said, though. Hufflepuff says or Hufflepuff, we're told, she took the rest. So, Slytherin chose all the purebloods and the cunning ones, they go to Slytherin. All the really brainiacs, they go to Ravenclaw. All the daring, brave ones go to Gryffindor. What does Hufflepuff get?
Everybody.
The bottom of the barrel. Or, use the language Dobby kind of used at the beginning of book 2. The outcast. The unwanted. And what does Hufflepuff do? She took the rest and taught them all she knew. She doesn't treat them as what?
The bottom of the barrel.
Okay? So just let that sit there for a while. Because up until this point, maybe I'm wrong. I don't think so, but maybe I'm wrong. What are we led to believe about Hufflepuffs?
That they're,
Or at the very least, what do Harry, Ron, Fred and George, Dean Thomas, Lee Jordan think about Hufflepuffs? They're what? Nobody wants to say it because you don't want to offend anybody. They're losers, right? They are the losers at Hogwarts. Who wants to be a Hufflepuff? How many of you, if you did Pottermore, were hoping, ooh, I hope I get placed in Hufflepuff? Yeah, pretty much nobody. Most people would rather be Slytherin than a Hufflepuff, okay? I'll wear my Hufflepuff shirt one day. So, it's a Badger shirt, actually. So, we're told she took them, she taught them all she knew. Thus, the houses and their founders retained friendships firm and true. So, Hogwarts worked in harmony for several happy years. I think that's the first time we have a musical term brought in. If something's harmonious, then what is it?
It sounds all the same.
It sounds beautiful, it's peaceful, it's, everything's fine with the world. But then discord crept among us, feeding on our faults and tears. But it's this discord, it's not that. Why? Because that's not a word in the English language spelled that way. This means this, but it can also mean what? Cord, as in card, in cardiac. Discord. Dis, broken, against the heart. Discord, disharmony, crept among us. How? Feeding on our faults and fears. What's the meaning of fault? What's a meaning of fault?
a wrong.
A wrong, okay. What's another meaning? A problem, okay. What's another meaning? What's a technical meaning? A scientific meaning? Break, crack. I'm from California. Not many hurricanes and tornadoes in California. Lots of earthquakes. I miss earthquakes, okay? Don't want to be there for the big one, but I miss earthquakes kind of like I always wanted to see a tornado, and then, I saw two up close and personal. Don't need to see that again. What do fault lines do in earthquakes?
They shift.
They have two different kinds. Slip fault does this, and a thrust fault does that. Where two tectonic plates meet, pressure builds, and some reason, we have no idea why, pressure builds to some point, and then the plates move. And this is why you'll see after an earthquake, in some instances, you'll have a road that's like this, and then it picks up over here anywhere from a couple feet to 20 or 30 yards away. That's how much the land is shifted. And if it's like this, you could be walking down a sidewalk and suddenly have a wall in front of you. And the sidewalk is now 2, 3, 10, 20 feet higher than you on the other side because the ground is shifted. Discord crept among us, feeding on our faults and fears. What are the faults here? What have we been introduced to by the four founders? If there are differences between them, then what else are there between them? Look, for example, I've got 3 students, 4 desks, but not a single united table. Fault, fault, fault. There are lines, there are divisions between them. And what does the discord do? It feeds on that. How? Little cracks show. And what do those little cracks do? What will happen to your windshield if you don't have a little crack caused by a rock from a dump truck? It'll grow. It'll eventually grow so that your whole windshield will be nothing but, like a spider web, okay? So, the houses that, like pillars for, the images of pillars upholding a building, had once held up our school, now turned upon each other and divided, sought to rule. So what have we just been told about each of the 4 houses?
Each of them wanted to be in charge.
So, this desk says, I'm taking over. And I'm taking over, and I'm taking over. Yeah. Okay? It implies that about all 4 of them. Okay? So, and for a while it seemed the school must meet an early end, what with dueling and with fighting and the clash of friend on friend. And at last there came a morning when old Slytherin departed. And though the fighting then died out, he left us quite downhearted. What does the, and though the fighting then died out, imply about Slytherin?
He was like the main cause of the discord.
The instigator, okay? But he left, and left Hogwarts what? Downhearted. Why did she use that word? What is the human heart made of? Don't say muscle and cells. What does it have? 4 chambers. What happens if one of those chambers shuts down? You go into cardiac arrest, heart attack, and you will die unless something happens quickly, like, okay? So, Slytherin leaves, and what does that do to Hogwarts? Slytherin, the person, leaves. There is still a house called Slytherin. But what does that do to the heart? It doesn't function properly. What is the sorting hat implying? Hogwarts is broken. Hogwarts is incomplete. Hogwarts isn't what it should be, or isn't what it could be, or isn't what it ought to be. And ever since the founders 4 were whittled down to 3, have the houses been united as they once were meant to be. So, if they were meant to be united, then what needs to happen? Harry's going to, we're not going to talk about it very much, Harry's going to say, what? It wants us to make nice with Malfoy and the other Slytherins? Yes, it's exactly what it wants. Okay? And now the sorting hat is here, and you all know the score. Another musical term, right? I sort you into houses because that is what I'm for. What do you mean that's what I'm for? That's my purpose. That's my end. Gryffindor, we were told, whipped the hat off, and they all put some brains in. Okay? Book 3 is, and that's where that song is. But this year I'll go further. That is, I'm going to do more than just sort you. Listen closely to my song. Though condemned I am to split you, still I worry that it's wrong. Condemned. What does condemned mean? If a judge, judges don't use this language,
You're bound to something.
but if a judge condemns you, what's that mean? What would that mean?
You're sentenced
To what? 30 days in jail?
forever.
Yeah, it's permanent. Death. Condemned, literally with damned. I am damned with, the hat says, sorting you. That's my judgment upon me. How? Though condemned I am, doesn't say to sort you. Condemned I am to split you. Still I worry that it's wrong. Though I must fulfill my duty and must quarter every year, still I wonder whether sorting may not bring the end I fear. Split, quarter, sorting. How does the sorting hat do its job? Anybody? You all know. Louder?
You're sorted by your qualities.
Okay. So what do? You go up, you put the hat on, right? Some people, they don't even have to have the hat touch their head. I think Malfoy, we were told, it got close and shouted, Slytherin! Like there was ever any doubt, okay? Others, Harry, and then we're going to find out in book 7, Hermione, the hat goes on, and what happens?
It's a hat stall.
You have a little debate. You talk to the hat mentally, which kind of shows you're a bit mental, right? According to Ron's terminology, okay? What did the hat say about Harry?
You'd be a good fit for
He
something.
wanted to put him in Slytherin. Harry chose not to, okay? Where did the hat want to put Hermione, for those of you who've read book 7?
Ravenclaw.
Ravenclaw. She gets put in Gryffindor. How does the hat know to put Harry in Slytherin? Or Hermione in Ravenclaw? Or any of the students where they are? What must the hat do to do that? Read your mind, okay, possibly. Notice, who goes into Slytherins? Purebloods, and is it just enough to be pureblood?
You have to be cunning and pure.
Because Neville's a pureblood, Ron's a pureblood. Why aren't they in? Because they're not cunning, right? Really, I mean, Neville come up with a plot, come on. And Ron would, blurt it out or something. So, it's not just that. What does the hat do? It looks at each individual and it does what to each individual? It splits each individual, right? It has to take each individual and kind of analyze that person. What do? That term analyze means to do what? You break it down into its constituent elements. To try or prove or test. Those are all things the head is doing. All three of those terms, try, prove, test, come from alchemy. Because what are you doing when you're trying something, you're testing something, you're proving something, you're breaking it down. Okay? The sorting hat has got to quarter the students, right? What are the students when they first arrive at Hogwarts? They're just first years. They're not Slytherins, Gryffindors, etc. They're first years. In other words, they're united. They're a complete whole. It's only after the sorting hat that they're no longer just first years. They're now Slytherins, Gryffindors, Ravenclaws, Hufflepuffs. So when the sorting hat does its sorting, it's saying, because you are more brave than you are cunning, I will put you in Gryffindor. What does it not do, however? How does it not treat each student as a single, unified whole? Okay? Why is this important? We get introduced to an idea, not in this book, but in this book. or we get introduced to a thing in the wizarding world in this book that Harry is then going to have to go search for in the next book. Anybody know what I'm thinking of?
Yeah.
Horcruxes. Okay? How do you make a horcrux? We find out in this book.
Break off a piece of yourself and doing something.
Is it just killing someone that does it? No, you've got to also intend to
Split yourself.
split yourself, quarter yourself, possibly, divide yourself. You're taking something that is whole, W-H-O-L-E, and you're creating a H-O-L-E in it. Okay? And you have to intend to do that. So she's kind of via the sorting hat introducing us to this idea of splitting an individual. And yet when we do that, what happens? Or when the hat does that, what happens?
It still worries that it didn't make the right choice.
Should Hermione really be in Gryffindor? Is Hermione really all that brave? All that daring? All that courageous? No, she's a rule follower in Brainiac. She kind of ought to be, really, in Ravenclaw. Okay? Would Harry have done well in Slytherin? Oh, yeah. But what is that saying for both of them? It's only looking at one aspect. Quartering does what? You could even talk about this in a political term. I could go around this room right now just by looking at you, and I could sort everybody. And I could sort everybody into big groups, men, women, smaller groups, okay, maybe by skin color. And I don't mean just black and white, I mean skin color. Really white and really black, and every tone in between. I could do it by hair color, I could do it by, because what does all of that do? That's all a bit of sorting. That's saying, I'm going to recognize you and treat you how? According to some characteristic. Go back to Hufflepuff. What did Hufflepuff say?
It doesn't matter, she's gonna treat them all the same.
All the same. Okay? I wonder whether sorting may not bring the end I fear. What's the end the hat fears? The end of Hogwarts. If the heart is Hogwarts together, and they don't unite with Slytherins, they don't make peace, the heart attack will occur. Hogwarts will fall apart. Go back to what Dumbledore said at the end of book 4. We will only stay strong as we are united and have a common purpose and goal. The hat is saying the same thing. Know the perils, read the signs, the warning history shows. Our Hogwarts is in danger from external deadly foes out there. Now, ostensibly, because of what happens next, who's the hat talking about? Literally. Who's the hat talking about? Is it Voldemort? I don't think it is. Who's sitting up at the high table? The staff table. Dolores Jane Umbridge. Who does she represent?
The Ministry of Magic.
Deadly external foes, right? Don't they want to take apart, in a sense, Hogwarts?
Yep.
Okay. Or will we must unite inside her, or will crumble from within? And I think, it's because of this, partially, that Rowling writes the epilogue to book 7. In one little scene in that epilogue. Because we see that uniting at the end of book 7. We see it a little bit before the end, but it's really in that epilogue. Okay? So, skip from there. We're going to talk about sorting and quartering and all that stuff more a little bit later. To the last chapter. When you have your book, you want to look at it, if you want to look at it. Harry goes off to find nearly headless Nick. Why? Anybody know?
Doesn't he wanna find out why Sirius Black didn't come as a ghost?
He's trying to find out if he will, not why he didn't, okay? Sorry to give it away, Sirius dies, he gets killed, okay? When Rowling wrote that part, by the way, she came down from her study in tears to her husband. You know, and gave an interview and talked about it. And we had to wait, literally, I'm not kidding, like a month and a half to find out who she killed. Nobody knew at that point. And she does something really cruel, a little warning, at the beginning of, not quite the beginning, early on in book 7. She has a chapter titled, The Fallen Warrior. I'm not going to say anything else. Because the very next word makes you think somebody dies. And it's not that person, okay? So, sorry, that ended up giving it away, so should have shot when I was ahead. So Harry meets Nick. And Nick's like, I knew this was coming. This is page 860 in the American edition. And he says, you're dead, but you're still here. Nick, yep. That's right. I mean, yep, I walk and talk. Very good, Harry. So you came back. What's the you came back imply?
That he came back from the dead?
That he was really, fully, completely, totally dead and had gone on and decided to come back. Nick says, people says, only wizards can come back. You know, no, that's cool. Person I'm thinking of, he'll come back then. Nick, he won't come back. Harry, who? Sirius Black. But you did. You're dead, you didn't disappear. Wizards can leave an imprint of themselves. That's kind of the modern popular psychology of what are ghosts. They're people who come back and like they have unfinished business, okay? Very few wizards choose that path. Harry, why not? He'll come back. He will not come back. He will have gone on. What do you mean, gone on? Gone on where? And it's like for the first time in Harry's life, he asks an ultimate question. What happens when you die? I mean, at the end of book 1, when Dumbledore said, Nicholas Flamel and his wife have set things in order, and Harry's like, but they'll die, won't they? And yes, they'll die, like the end of a very long day, you know. And Harry's just kind of, wow, I don't understand. What happens when you die? Where do you go? Why doesn't everyone come back? Why isn't this, why? Notice, why? I don't know. You're dead. Who else can Harry ask? We could go knock up the Bloody Baron. Be a little sketchy. I was afraid of death. I chose to remain behind. I wonder whether sometimes I shouldn't have, or I oughtn't to have. He says, well, that's neither here nor there. I'm not here nor there either. I know nothing of the secrets of death, Harry. Where can you go to learn the secrets of death? Death, if that door represents death for the moment, or where else? Where did Harry go?
Department of Mysteries.
Into the Department of Mysteries, and he went where? He went into several rooms that are in the Department of Mysteries. They are mysteries that witches and magicians do what? Try to understand. But the fact that they are mysteries mean they cannot be rationally understood. See, something that's a mystery is something that cannot be resolved. What are some of the mysteries Harry, Ron, Hermione went into in the Department of Mysteries? Remember the room with the clocks? Time. What else? The room with the tanks of water and the floating things with the stuff hanging down from them? brains, mind. Space was a room. What else? Department of prophecies. Can't rationally understand those. Here's what I mean by that. Where did the prophecy come from that spoke through Trelawney both times? In a Judeo-Christian sense, even in a Muslim sense, the prophecies ultimately come from where? God, speaking through a conduit. Where do they come from here? Okay. What was one of the rooms that they went into that Harry was very intrigued by? Anybody describe it? It had an arch. That arch had a veil. And it's described as a veil, not a curtain. Okay? What did Harry hear in that room?
Voices?
And Luna, because she's going to refer to it in just a moment. Voices. Harry was drawn towards that veil. Okay? Who was not excited about being in that room?
Hermione.
One person specifically, Hermione. Why not? What is that room?
Wasn't it an execution chamber?
Nope.
Isn't the veil like a?
You're kind of close. Louder.
Death?
Death. That's the death room. What's beyond the veil? Death. Go through the veil,
You die.
and you're dead. How do we know? Who fell through the veil?
Sirius Black.
Was he dead when he hit the veil? No, he had a big smile on his face. Like, damn you, Bellatrix. As he was laughing when she hit him. Who started to go through the veil when they first went in? Harry was going up the steps. And Hermione's like, Harry, get out of here. Why not? Why was Hermione so scared?
She knew what the room was?
Maybe.
Trying to guess what it was.
Can you reason if that door is death? About death?
I guess because both Harry and Luna have been impacted by death and they can hear voices, she put it together.
Well, possibly, but that doesn't explain Hermione. You can't rent.
Because Hermione's like logical, and so like she can't make sense of it, and that's why she's scared.
You can't. Exactly. It's unknown and unknowable except for how? You gotta die. But if you die, you leave this, which is everything she's known. Okay? So, Nick says, I believe there's a learned wizard studying the matter in the Department of Mysteries. Sorry, Harry, couldn't have been more help. There was one other room, by the way, that Harry never went into. What was it? I don't have time for this. I didn't talk about this in my first class. The door was locked. They kept trying to go into it. They could never get it open. Dumbledore tells Harry about that room at the end of when he had his scene with Harry in this book. Love. Why is it locked? Always locked. If it's always locked, then how do they study it? It can't be studied up here. How do you study love?
By experiencing
Yeah. It's in here. It's not romantic. It's not erotic love. Those are elements. Those are kinds of love. But it's something else. Okay? So, Harry leaves Nick. He goes to Nick full of hope. I'm going to get answers. I'm going to find out what I need to do to reconnect with Sirius. Right? Because he's just found, packing up, getting ready for the head back to number 4. He found what in his trunk? A stupid mirror Sirius gave him. That if only he'd used, he never would have, his thinking, gotten Sirius killed, right? Because it's Harry's fault that Sirius died. In Harry's thinking. So, he leaves, and we're told, page 862, Harry felt almost as though he had lost his godfather all over again. In losing the hope, he might be able to see or speak to him once more. It's like seeing him. He walked slowly and miserably back up through the empty castle, wondering whether he would ever feel cheerful again. Okay? What's Harry focused on at that point? Where's his attention? Where's his quote-unquote psychic energy?
Internal.
It's all inside. His sorrow, his loss, his grief. Okay? And he runs into Luna. And what does he find out has been happening to Luna?
They've been taking and hiding her possession.
And interestingly, this isn't the first time. This has seemingly happened how often?
Every year.
Every year Luna faces this. Why do people take Luna's stuff and hide it from her?
Because she's seen as weird.
Because at the bottom of 862, they think I'm a bit odd. You know, some people call me Loony Lovegood. Oh, look, the freak. Let's pick on her. Oh, look, the oddball. Let's treat her differently. Oh, look, the fill in the blank, and let's fill in the blank. Okay? Harry, that's no reason for them to take your things. Do you want help finding them? So what has Luna, merely meeting Luna and talking with her for a couple of minutes, done? She's drawn Harry outside of himself to what? Somebody else.
And for her,
Somebody else has problems, and Harry cares for her. I don't mean cares romantically. How does he care for her? He expresses sympathy. Sim, together with pathy, feeling, emotion. Okay? That's love. Love is always directed outwards. It's always about the other. It's never about, shouldn't. You may disagree. It's fine. Should never be about me. If you're if you're engaged in getting married and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to be so happy, this person's going to make me, don't. You're going to have nothing but headaches and heartaches, okay? She says, oh no, they'll come back. They always do in the end. Like her things are going to just magically float back into her room. She goes, I just wanted to pack tonight. Why aren't you at the feast? I didn't feel like it. And she mentions his godfather. Harry nods. And he remembers, Luna could see the thestrals. What's a requirement for seeing the thestrals?
You had to watch someone die.
You had to watch someone die. Big question, by the way. So how come Harry never saw the thestrals in books 2, 3, or 4? He'd seen someone die. He saw his mother die when he was a baby. Take him far back, bring enough Dementors in. Don't let him put on a Expecto Patronum charm. He'll see his mother die. He'll hear her die again and again and again. Okay, it's a glitch. It's a glitch in the writing. Rowling did come up with an answer to why later on. Okay, it's not a good one. I don't want to spend time on it. So Harry asks, who did you know who's died? My mother. Blew up a house, science experiment. Harry, I'm sorry. Yes, it was rather horrible. I still feel very sad about it sometimes. But I've still got Dad. More than Harry can say, right? And anyway, it's not as though I'll never see Mom again, is it? And notice, she just says that matter-of-factly. Like, oh, it's 10 o'clock. Harry, isn't it? Isn't it? Means what? No, you're not going to see your mother again. She's dead. She shook her head in disbelief. Why disbelief?
She can't believe Harry hasn't put two and two together or thought of it. You know?
Okay. I think it's likely because of what she's going to say next. It could also be she can't believe Harry doesn't think there's anything more than what we see here. Because, Luna sees what? A lot more than the rest of us see, right? Horny, crackled, snub, or whatever they are. I can never remember what those things are called. We're going to see them again in book 7, okay? Or hear about them again. She shook her head in disbelief. Oh, come on, you heard them just behind the veil, didn't you? You mean in that room with the archway? They were just lurking out of sight. That's all. You heard them. What did Harry think he heard? Anybody remember? Whispers. He thought he heard whispering behind the veil, which is why he went to the veil, he looked at it, he walked around the back, looked behind it, and then he started to go up the steps, thinking, maybe I need to pull the veil back. They looked at each other. Luna was smiling slightly. Yeah, but when Luna smiles slightly, what do most people think? Loony Lovegood. She sees things other people don't. Luna believes so many extraordinary things. Pause for a moment. What happened in the chapter Priori Incantatem in book 4? Voldemort's reborn. He's going to duel with Harry. Harry decides, after Voldemort uses Cruciatus on him, okay, and Harry runs from him after he's given his wand back and everything. Harry's hiding behind Tom Riddle's, senior's, gravestone, and he decides, I'm not going to die crouching, hiding. I'm going to face death like my father, standing up. And he comes out from behind the tombstone, and he does Expelliarmus, Voldemort does Avada Kedavra, the two jets meet, and what happens? You've got the beads of light, right? And they keep kind of moving back and forth, and they start to get closer to Harry's wand, and something in his mind says, push them back, push them the other way, and Harry pushes them the other way. By the way, when the first bead hits Voldemort's wand, that should be a clue to us. Harry's going to win this. Why? Because he just beat Voldemort. Voldemort was trying to push him the other way. Harry was stronger. Okay? Then what happens? Right? Wormtail's hand comes out and starts flopping on the ground. Then what happens?
The housekeeper.
Frank Bryce comes out. Bertha Jorkins. Notice these are all the things that Voldemort's wand has done. Between Bertha Jorkins and the next one, years have passed. Because who comes out next? Or what comes out next? Use Dumbledore's term for the moment. An echo of Lily Potter. Okay? What does Lily say? Oh, sorry. What comes out before, after Wormtail's hand? Cedric, okay? Cedric says, hang on, Harry. Bertha Jorkins, fight him, Harry. Frank Bryce, keep going, kid. His mother comes out. What does she say? Hold on, Harry. Your father will be here. He'll make it all better. So essentially what she says. Is he going to slaughter Voldemort? No. James comes out. What does he say? Let me rephrase that. What does he reveal? Does he know where they are? Does he know what's going on? Yes, he does. Does he know what's happened? Yes, he does. He knows there's a port key. So have he and Cedric been having tea inside the wand and talking? Probably not. Okay. He knows that it's Voldemort. He knows this is his son. He knows their wands are connected. He understands, I think, what Sirius doesn't understand. When Dumbledore explains about priority incantatem. Okay? And he says, when you break the connection, what? You'll only have a few minutes. We'll give you time. That is, we'll distract Voldemort. Get to the port key, Harry. It'll take you back to Hogwarts. He understands all of that. Is that an echo? Yeah, I don't think so. I think Dumbledore's wrong. Or Dumbledore doesn't want to tell all the truth. In that scene, how did Harry perceive, let me put it that way, those things? Were they all in his mind? The hand, Cedric, Bertha, Frank, Lily, James? Was he seeing them with his mind's eye? Was it all in his head? No. How do we know it wasn't? Because they went up to Voldemort and Voldemort backed up. Voldemort saw them too. And the implication is the Death Eaters outside the dome also saw them. Okay? So, a lot of eyewitnesses to this. All right? How else did Harry perceive them? So others saw. What else? The implication is others heard as well. It's empirical knowledge. This world kind of knowledge that you can evaluate, you can test, etc. Okay? Ghosts, souls, parts of souls, something along that. Where did Harry have his first experience of something like that? Book 1. Mirror of Erised. He saw his parents. He couldn't touch them. He couldn't talk to them. If he'd been really smart, he'd got a piece of paper and written something so they would see it. Okay? He sees that. He doesn't believe at this point, prior to speaking to, getting text mixed up, I want to say Ophelia, but not Ophelia, Luna, it's like he's had no experience at all in any kind of religious training or upbringing. It's like, it's almost literally like Harry has lived in a quote-unquote religious vacuum all of his life. Like he's never thought about anything after death. Okay, he's lived with the Dursleys all his life, right? They don't hold anything strange or mysterious. Whatever else you say about religion, or any religion, you gotta admit, strange and mysterious, because it deals with, largely, they deal with things that are inexplicable, kind of, okay? But this is England we're talking about. England is, people in England say this themselves about it. It's a post-Christian nation. It was a Christian country for thousands of years. And today I think the statistic is like 3% of people call themselves Christians. Christians are the minority religion, or a minority religion. More Muslims than Christians in England. But you still go around England at Christmas time, and guess what you're going to see?
Christmas.
You're going to see Christmas everywhere. You're going to hear Christmas carols. You're going to see Christmas trees. You're going to hear stories about Father Christmas, the whole 9 yards. Okay? At Hogwarts, what do we see every year in December?
Christmas tree decorated.
Hagrid bringing in Christmas trees. 12 of them. Why 12? 12 days of Christmas, 12 apostles, 12 tribes of Israel, the numerological significance and such. The holidays are never called winter holidays. They're never called winter break. They're always referred to as the Christmas holidays. What is the mid-spring holiday in the books? always called?
Easter.
Even in book 7. And even Narcissa Malfoy will say, Draco's home for his Easter holiday, not spring break. I mean, there are public schools, there are public school districts in the United States where you can't call that Easter holidays anymore. I mean, they no longer fall around Easter anymore, okay? What's my point? It's like Harry's been raised in a test tube, or as I said, vacuum. And yet, there is one thing that we were introduced to in book 3 that shows us, proves to us, there had to be at least one point in his life where there was some, lack of a better phrase, religious background. What was it? Anybody guess? Why is he so bummed about Sirius? What was Sirius to Harry?
A father figure?
Father figure. Dumbledore says, closest to a parent that you've ever had.
A brother.
Brother, kind of. Molly, kind of like, he thinks he's James, you know. Sirius thinks Harry's James. What is Sirius's real relation to Harry?
He's his godfather.
Godfather. How are you made godfather? Nothing to do with the movie.
Usually the parents ask you to be the godfather.
Parents have to ask you,
Yeah.
and what happens? That's it?
No, there's like isn't that when the baby gets baptized?
Yes. In the Christian tradition, when the baby is baptized, marked with the sign of the cross, holy water, the whole 9 yards, the person is made godfather, godmother. Often in the Protestant tradition, it's more just kind of sponsor, because they don't want to use the Catholic language and such. What's the purpose of a godfather?
Isn't it teaching about Christianity?
Yeah, it's to teach you the tenets of the faith, and if something happens to your parents, you get raised by that person. Be cool to be raised by Sirius, right? I mean, everybody, you gotta go, yes. As opposed to Arthur. I mean, Arthur's kind of dull. I mean, if he was raised by the Weasleys. Okay? Why is this important? In book 7, should I go there? Yeah, what the hell? In book 7, we're going to get to book 6. 6 in just a moment. Somebody's going to die. Well, take that back. A lot of people are going to die, so be prepared. A lot of people are going to die, but one of the persons, whatever, that's going to die, Harry's going to bury. Or he's going to bury part of this person, that pretty much what's left. He's going to bury the part of this person under a tree. And he's going to take his wand, light up the tip, and he's going to carve a cross in the tree over the remains. I don't have a clue why. It bugs the hell out of me. Because it doesn't, in one sense, it doesn't make sense. Is that an indication that the remaining part of this person was a Christian? Because that's usually what you do. If the person's a Jew, what do you put?
The Star of David.
Star of David over him. Okay? Buddhist or something else, I don't even think you worry about it. Other religions, other things, other symbols, right? Harry puts this, or is this an indication that Harry's now a secret closet Christian? No, it's not, because we're going to see Harry have his quote-unquote crisis of faith late in book 7. I mean, he's going to reach like loading, one bullet in the chamber, spinning it, and start playing a little bit of Russian roulette, okay? Back to here. She looks at Harry in disbelief. She can't believe. Harry doesn't believe anything. And she explains that about, they're just lurking out of sight. Harry asks again, you sure you don't want me to help? She says, no, I'll just go down to the feast. It'll all come back together. It'll all... What is that showing on Luna's part? Everything's going to work out somehow. What is that kind of attitude, trying not to use a word, described as?
She has faith.
She has faith. Is it in a person? Is it help me Jesus? No, it's not. Is it help me Allah? No, it's not. Help me Buddha? No, it's not. It's a belief that somehow everything will work out in the end. Faith, belief, okay? So she tells Harry, have a nice holiday. He goes, yeah, you too. She walks away, and as Harry leaves, we're told he found that the terrible weight in his stomach seemed to have lessened a bit. Why? What has Luna given Harry?
Glimpse of hope.
Hope?
Peace of mind that you'll see Sirius again.
Peace of mind that he'll see Sirius again? In other words, faith, belief that he'll see Sirius? Remember when Nagini had Harry earlier in the book? And Voldemort says, come on, Dumbledore. If death's not a big deal, let him die. And Harry's like, yes, let me die. The pain will end. What does he say? Come on, surely you remember it. And I'll see Sirius again. He says there, or he thinks there. How is that different than what Luna said? It's not really, right? It's a problem. When push comes to shove, when Harry is literally in the grips of death, he's thinking, let it end, let it end. I'll see Sirius again. How / where? In death. Here, Luna says, it's not like you're not ever going to see him again. And he's like, huh? What do you mean? It's not like I just, what, a day ago? 2 days ago? However long it was? Huh. So we get this idea introduced, let's say. Okay? Next book. Opens with the other minister. Who's the other minister? To whom does the phrase, the other minister, refer?
The Prime Minister of England?
Is it the Prime Minister? Or is it the Prime Minister thinking about the other minister, the Minister of Magic? It's wonderfully ambiguous. It can refer to both. Who do we see first? The Prime Minister. Who shows up? Fudge. Why does Fudge show up?
He's relaying information to the Prime Minister about Voldemort's return.
Yeah. Why else? I mean, what's Fudge's real purpose for being there? He's got to introduce his replacement. Fudge has been sacked. I mean, look at how the previous book ended. What had Fudge been trying to do for the entirety of the Order of the Phoenix?
Trying to deny that Voldemort had returned.
Yeah, no, you don't see what you think you see. He's not really here, etc., etc., okay? So, he and the Prime Minister talk. Fudge is there, fiddling with his bowler hat. This is around page 3, I want to say. Yep, 3 or so. Difficult to know where to begin. Look at week. What a week. Prime Minister. Had a bad one, have you? What does Fudge say?
Yes, of course.
Yes, of course. Keep going.
The same week.
I've been having the same week you've been having. How can that be? Fudge is Minister for Magic. He deals with the magical world. The Prime Minister is the Prime Minister of Great Britain. He deals with the real world. How can they be having the same week? What is Rowling showing us? And we got the first indication of this back at the beginning of this in the Dursleys' surgically clean kitchen after Harry defeated the Dementors. Anybody remember what happened?
Dudley got affected?
Yeah, after that. He mentions the word Dementor. Vernon like, what's it? Who explains who the Dementors are?
Petunia.
What happens to Harry when Petunia does that? Not enough duct tape in the world to keep his head together. Why does it blow his mind?
Because Petunia, he's surprised that Petunia knows what Dementors are.
Okay, why else?
The fact that they're talking about it.
The fact that they're talking about Dementors in their kitchen shows Harry what?
Petunia knows a lot more about magic than he thinks she does.
Why?
There's big links.
Because it's the first time Harry sees Petunia as his mother's sister and what that might mean. What does Harry do every year at the end of the school year?
He has to go back to.
He comes home. What would Lily do every year at the end of the school year?
Come back home.
Harry doesn't have a brother to confide in. Lily had a sister to confide in and to talk with. Harry starts to make the connection. Wait, she grew up with my mom. She probably heard my mom. How else would she know about Dementors? Okay? So, what do we see happen in that scene that we're getting again here? Do it this way. Here's the Muggle world. Here's the magical world. Harry always thought that between the two of them, there is this big gap. What did he come to learn?
It's kind of more of a Venn diagram than that.
There's no gap at all, and it's not even a Venn diagram.
They got
Interlink.
They're one superimposed upon the other. The only difference being, what has it always been like before that point in Order of the Phoenix or now? They've been superimposed, but again, separate. Now, the one is bleeding into the other. What do they talk about? I've been having the same week you have. Brockdale Bridge, Bones and Vance murders, ruckus in the West Country. Brockdale Bridge, not the Millennium Bridge as is done in the film, okay? Bridge that goes over the Thames. The Bones and Vance murders, Amelia Bones, Emmeline Vance. We've seen those names before. This book. We saw their pictures. Well, Harry met Amelia Bones in his trial, head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement. We saw Emmeline Vance's picture in the original Order of the Phoenix that Moody showed him, which I don't know if you could see, but when I was writing stuff on the board in that video, I did a list of all the people in the original Order of the Phoenix. There were 21, 22, something like that. 50% died. Well, we have a new Order of the Phoenix, right? We're going to get introduced to all of them in book 7. I've never actually done this. It'd be kind of fun. Well, I don't know if fun would be the right word. By the time we get to the end of book 7, there's going to be a lot of them dead. And there's going to be some who aren't in the Order of the Phoenix for a reason, which we won't talk about. The two are mixed. What happens in one influences what happens in the other. Is it the case that what happens in this, the Muggle world, influences what happens here? No. It's the other way around. This, I think what Rowling is doing, is the Muggle world is the physical world. The Muggle world, it's our world. What's the magical world or the wizarding world? Unseen world, spiritual world, kind of like, when Gandalf tells Frodo about Glorfindel, you saw him, what? As he is on the other side, shining flame of light, I think Rowling's trying to get an idea across to her readers. The idea is what? Any of you familiar with Hamlet? by Shakespeare. There's a line in Hamlet, pretty close to before he dies. Actually, take that back, beginning of the play. Hamlet's talking to his good friend Horatio, and he says, there is more in heaven and earth than is dreamt of in your philosophy, Horatio, because Horatio's a Stoic. Only thing that's important is what you can see, hear, feel, taste, touch, empirical senses. There's nothing else after that. In other words, death is just the end. It's not the next great adventure. Rowling is trying, I think, to show us there's a lot more out there, that there is something beyond just dying. So, what's the real reason for Fudge being there? No? It's an introduction. He's got to introduce the current prime minister to the new minister for magic, Rufus Scrimgeour. And it's therefore our introduction to Rufus Scrimgeour. Because by the time we get to the end of this book, and then later on in book 7, we're going to hear a lot about Rufus Scrimgeour. Okay? Chapter 2. That's all I really want to say about that one. Chapter 2. Spinner's Inn. Spinner's Inn. Got it written down up here. What is Spinner's Inn? What's the title refer to?
Is this Snape's house?
It's the name of the street that Snape lives on. Describe Snape's street. Yeah. Old factory buildings and warehouses with broken windows, and there's Snape's rotty little house at the end of it. In other words, Snape lives where?
In an old factory district?
On the wrong side of the tracks, man. If you're a Parks and Rec fans, you know, Pawnee Eagleton. He's a Pawnee person entirely. Snape has not had an easy life. This is an indicator of that. Okay? What happens? What's the importance of this chapter?
They show that, I'm trying to think of how to describe it.
What happens in it?
So, Narcissa asked Snape to protect Malfoy at Hogwarts and guide him because Malfoy has just been tasked by Voldemort to kill Dumbledore.
Nope, we don't know that. We don't know that.
She
What-
asked him to protect him in the coming years.
Yes.
And make a vow for him.
That comes up later. What they do is the unbreakable vow. And the vow is he will aid and assist and protect Draco. And if Draco is unable to do the task that the Dark Lord has given him, Snape will do it himself. Sorry, I didn't mean to come down hard.
No, you're fine.
Okay? It's what the task is. That doesn't come up until book 7. Yeah, you can maybe end of this book. Okay? But it really gets explained more in book 7. So, notice, it's an unbreakable vow. So what happens if you break it?
You died.
You die. What happened if somebody did not compete in the Triwizard Tournament? Whose name came out? Yeah. You had to, or you died. Okay? We're going to see another unbreakable vow, but it's not going to be called the unbreakable vow in book 7. And yet we're going to be told it is an unbreakable, let me rephrase that. It's an eternal vow. It's interesting that Rowling uses that language when that scene comes up. Okay?
This is also the chapter where we find out that Narcissa and Bellatrix are related.
Yes. Sisters. Okay? We already know what about the Malfoys and the Weasleys.
They hate each other.
And they're related. Okay? And not distantly related. They're cousins. I mean, it's pretty close. In the Longbottoms and pretty much all other purebloods. Because if you're going to keep pure blood, what do you have to do? You only got to... Kind of helps explain Bellatrix's. Okay? Bellatrix, by the way, Bella, anybody know what that is? Anyone know what a casus belli is? Cause of war. Bellatrix. Trix is the feminine ending. One who wars. Great name, by the way. The Strange. Lestrange. Can also be the Strong. Trying to think if I have time to go on it. Yeah, I better do it anyways. Spinner's End. What spins? Anything. Tell me anything that spins.
Wheel.
Earth spins, right? On its globe, on its axis. A wheel spins. What else? What's this made of?
Cotton.
Cotton. How do you get cotton?
So I spin it.
You don't just go out into a field and pull the cotton and go. You spin it, right? Or wool, okay? You get it on a wheel, you spin it, you make thread. What else spins? Thread. Or threads. Do I have it written up there? I do. Spiders. What do spiders spin? Webs. Why? Do they live in the webs? No, they don't. They have a nest. So what's the web for? To bother me when I walk out between my two front columns in the morning and I don't see the damn web, okay? To catch what? Prey. Glad you didn't say food or enemies. It's just prey, okay? You know who else spins? Have any of you ever heard of the Norns? They're Germanic mythology. They're the goddesses of fate. 3 of them. Just like the 3 Greek fates named Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropo. Clotho is the one who spins the thread of your life. Lachesis is the one who measures how long your life will be. And Atropo, it's where we get the word atrophy from, is the one who cuts the thread of your life. Okay? Why bring up the fates and spinning and threads with Spinner's End? I really wish I knew all of you had read not only this book, but all of book 7. I'm not going to give it away. When I would do this in my Harry Potter class in London, I had to told the students, you need to read all 7 books before we get there, because when we get to this book, I'm going to give something away, but I won't. Just keep all this together. Spinners, fate, webs being cast and drawn, etc. Keep all this in mind when we get to the end of book 7. Okay? I won't say anything more. Spinner's going to take on a different meaning. Okay? So, next chapter. Will and won't. Got 3 minutes. What's the will and won't literally refer to? Who says will and won't? Creature, right? Dumbledore arrives at number 4 Privet Drive to pick up Harry. And he says, we've had the reading of Sirius's will. And, Harry, you have a house. In addition to his pot of gold, right? So he's even more rich because the blacks weren't poor. Okay, and he also has a house elf and a flying horse, Buckbeak. Not a flying horse.
The hippogriff.
Whatever. Yeah, hippogriff. Okay. How do we know that he is the real owner of Creature? He has to give him a command. If Creature obeys it, then that means he really is. So he gives him a command and Creature obeys it. So then Dumbledore talks to the Dursleys. I'm trying to find the page. Minus 4 pages. On page 53 or so. He says, Harry comes of age in a year. I want you to make sure Harry can come back. And he tells them. He talks about Voldemort and stuff. And he says again around page 53, when I left Harry with you, I left a letter instructing you what I wanted you to do. He wanted them to treat Harry how? Explaining about his parents' murder and expressing the hope that you would care for him as though he were your son. If they had cared for Harry as though he were their son, Harry would have been treated how?
Like Dudley.
Like Dudley. okay, just pause for speculation for a moment. If Harry had been treated like Dudley, how would Harry be different?
He'd be spoiled.
He'd be totally different. So, you did not do as I asked. You have never treated Harry as a son. He has known nothing but neglect and often cruelty at your hands. And therefore, Harry has what that enables him to put off an imperious curse? 3-word phrase. It was on the quiz. Might be on the quiz. It's still up there. No, that was Goblet of Fire. Strength of character. Okay? The best thing that can be said is he has at least escaped the appalling damage you inflicted upon the unfortunate boy sitting between you. Notice, if they had followed Dumbledore's will, Harry would be like Dudley. He would be damaged. Harry is damaged, but in a different way. All right? So, he talks about the magic, etc. We need you to let him come home one more time. And then we're told the family, Dudley's trying to figure out how he's been damaged. Vernon's flummoxed, and Aunt Petunia is oddly flushed. Why?
She knew
She knew what?
that if she treated him the same as Dudley,
He would be.
He would have been worse off.
yeah, he would.
So Petunia did that all intentionally? She was trying to toughen Harry up for his battle against the Dark Lord? Hell no, that's not it. Why else do you flush? Turn red in the face.
You're embarrassed.
Anger possibly? Embarrassment? Ashamed? Did Dumbledore kind of get a zinger in there? This is my brother, my sister's only son? This is the last bit of Lily? All right. I don't know why I always don't get nearly as far with you guys. We're not going to say hardly anything about Horace. So I want you to get to roughly 2/3 of the way through. My copy, that's page 400 or so.